Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Open Space Recreation Plan Open House. My name's Kathy Williams. I'm Yarmouth Town Planner. We're going to have a fun-filled evening tonight talking about updating of our Open Space and Recreation Plan, which is really being run under the guidance of our ad hoc committee, which is made up of a bunch of different members from our other committees. And I'll just kind of ask the members to raise their hand. We have Will Rubenstein, who's the chair of the planning board, or chair of this committee, and he's also on the planning board. Steve Szanski, who's on the Recreation Commission. Christine Marzigliano, our Open Space Committee member. Gail Charette, who's our Disability Commission. She's out in the hall greeting people as they're coming in. And then Ellie Lawrence from Conservation. We also have a bunch of different town staff that's helping us with the update of the Open Space and Rec Plan. In addition to myself, we have Brittany DiRienzo, who's in Conservation, Anthony Bennett, who's the Acting Recreation Director, Bill Benetti, the Division of Natural Resources Director, Amanda Lima, who's the town engineer. I think she stepped out of the room for a moment. And then Nate Wetton, who is our civil engineer. We also have our consultant on board to help us with our update from Weston & Sampson. We have Brandon Kunkel, and we also have Cassie Bethany. At this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Brandon, and then we'll get going. You can talk right there.
Thanks, Kathy. Great to be here tonight, everyone. We're really excited to really be kicking this off. This is the first of a few public meetings that will take place as part of this. And I just wanted to give a bit of background and the whole reason for updating your open space and rec plan. I'm sorry. Oh, Zoom tips. It's old hat now, so I apologize. But it's not old hat for everybody, so I totally understand that. We do ask that everybody mute during the presentation, just for background noise, as well as turn off your video. There will be a question and answer session at the end, as well as if you are calling in, you should be able to hit *9. That'll make a tone, and that will let the people know that you have a question, or you can use the raise your hand icon at the bottom of your screen. So there will be a question and answer session, and you can also put any comments into the chat as well. We are not chatting. I apologize. No chatting. Maybe the next meeting. So our agenda for this evening, I'm going to give a quick background of how we arrived to this very moment, as well as what is the purpose of the Open Space and Recreation Plan. Then we're going to talk about the input from the vision plan that's already been completed, and then we'll talk about the mapping and analysis that we have completed to date. We'll report out on that a little bit, and then we'll talk about opportunities, and that's really where you folks start to come in, and we are really excited to hear your opinions and thoughts. And then ultimately, how can you help the ad hoc committee, the town, and Weston & Sampson over the next several months as we work through updating the Open Space and Recreation Plan. So, project background and purpose. Does everybody here know what an Open Space and Recreation Plan is? No hands. So an Open Space and Recreation Plan is really, it's an initiative by the state that allows for communities throughout the state of Massachusetts to apply for future grants, state funding for projects, and it's really intended for communities to really think about putting a roadmap together. If we all think about this as a roadmap, and it has to be updated every 7 years to remain qualified for state funding and grants. So if we think about this as a roadmap for the town and where you guys have been over the last 7 years, what has changed, and also where do we want to be in 7 years? What are some of the initiatives that we should be thinking about moving forward? And we'll get into that in a little bit. But it is a state mandate. It does have to be updated. Now, that doesn't mean there's incremental updates that could happen in between that 7-year period. So if we think of this as a living document that's intended to be updated, That's probably the best way to do that. But it's really at where we're at today is we're really just pausing in time to evaluate what's been done. Does it still make sense? Are those still the town's goals? Or are there new goals that should be added? Or have we completed any of the goals that have already been identified? That's all. So if we think about it that way. So schedule. So Weston and Sampson was hired back in late November to help with this. We did make it through the holidays, so that was nice. But since then, we've been on site to evaluate the existing properties, and we're working through the existing inventory and identifying what it is that you have. Is it in good shape? Is it well maintained? What are some of the upgrades that could be identified? In particular, the state has really been pushing for accessibility. So we've been doing accessibility analysis throughout the various spaces. And now we are getting into the mapping portion of it, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. So if you see down here at the bottom under the public engagement line, that's where we are. We are here on February the 8th, and we've been meeting with the ad hoc committee over the last several months to get to this point. But now it's really time for the community to start to weigh in, and we want to hear your thoughts. And the way I always like to look at it, so Weston and Sampson, we do not have an office in Yarmouth, but we are local to Massachusetts. But you guys are the ones that live in Yarmouth, you know what makes it great. And I want to hear about that. I want to hear what really gets you guys excited about being part of the Yarmouth community. So we're really excited to be here tonight to learn, really. So why do we have to update the OSRP? And I mentioned this a little bit already. So it is to remain eligible for state funding for park construction and land acquisition. So it's not just upgrading your existing parks. It also allows for the town to potentially buy more land. We want to engage the community to bring a heightened awareness to the importance of open space and recreation. We also want to make sure we're updating the inventory, as I noted that over the last 7 years there might have been some initiatives that have taken place. So we'll be including all that in this latest round of updates. And then we obviously want to develop a new 7-year action plan for you folks to help you guys implement and roadmap out during that time frame. So the state, if we fast forward just a smidge here, so these are all the items that the state requires us to check in on. These are all there's 11 chapters within the open space and recreation plan that are required. Some of them are pretty straightforward, such as the introduction, the plan summary, the community setting. I know I have to imagine, it already speaks to what makes Yarmouth great, but we're always willing to perhaps go back, brush that off. What makes it even better now? And then we'll talk about the environmental inventory and analysis. A lot of it I think is pretty intuitive, but it doesn't mean it shouldn't be updated. And then this goes to the previous slide where acquisitions of land. So we're going to be updating the inventory of lands in the conservation and recreation. And so, if the town has purchased some land in recent time, we'll want to include that into the overall plan. Then this is where you folks really start to come in around chapter 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. This is where you folks really, I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone's vision is for Yarmouth. And it's going to be different for everybody, and that's what makes it great. It's really up to Weston and Sampson to take that information and that input and synthesize that down into action items so that we make sure that we are able to meet that vision. We're going to identify what are your needs, and then we'll set out some goals and objectives to be implemented, and then the 7-year action plan is going to really identify what is the most important goal, and what are some of the actions that could be taken to start implementing some of the goals. And then at the end, we'll have an appendix to the report. It'll include this very meeting tonight. We'll be documenting it with photos if that's okay. But we'll include all the public input and all the feedback so that in 2 years, when Kathy says, no, we did this, you can say, Kathy, right here, it has my note that says, no, we didn't do that. So, and then obviously the references, we'll be making sure we acknowledge all the hard work that goes into all of this. And with that, I'm going to step away, and you're probably all saying thank you. But I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Cassie, and she's going to walk you through really what we're hoping to accomplish tonight.
Oh, I can do it. Thanks, Brandon. I'll try to be very brief because really the point of tonight is to hear from all of you and to hear less of us. So we just, to kick this off, there's been a lot of thinking about open space and recreation in town already through the vision plan, and we wanted to familiarize ourselves with that and just re-familiarize folks with that information. And so we just pulled some of the highlights from the vision plan. There's a top 5 environmental topics that are important to note. The first being preserving drinking water and air quality, water resources, wetlands, marshlands, and natural habitats. Yarmouth, hands down, gorgeous landscapes, and that certainly comes through in all of these. Preserving public open spaces, beaches, conservation areas, bogs, and walking trails. Provide well-maintained, high-quality open spaces, beaches, and conservation. So well-maintained is the important word there. Provide municipal wastewater systems to safeguard and improve water quality, fisheries and shellfish habitat, recreational opportunities, and promote development. So provide a wastewater system there to safeguard our water quality. And then promote development of placement that protects water resources and open spaces. So really the focus is protection, conservation, making sure we have and continue to have beautiful open spaces for folks to enjoy. And then top 5 recreational topics. These are focused on kind of similar themes and recreation with more of a recreation focus. So provide improved water quality to maintain all the recreational swimming, boating, fishing, shellfishing, all the things that people love to do. Preserve all the existing parks, playgrounds, beach facilities, et cetera, golf and conservation areas that people are using for various reasons. Preserve existing access to water, incredibly important here on the Cape. Provide, again, well-maintained trails, recreation facilities, and then promote the expansion of these facilities. So how can we add to our inventory, conserve more land, that sort of thing. And then, of course, we'll like to add to that list as part of this effort. So I'll just briefly go through our mapping. I'll high level that these are draft maps that we will be adding to and updating as we collect input from you all. So folks on Zoom and folks here in the room will have an opportunity to say, hey, that's actually wrong, or this trail goes and extends this way. I really love this, or this area is a challenge. That's the sort of thing that we want to hear tonight. Under the open space inventory, we really want to know what kind of amenities are you seeking out? Where are you going for your playgrounds, your fields, your courts? How are you using your open spaces? And how might they be more well used? Like, are you leaving Yarmouth for any reason? Do you want to have more of a certain kind of amenity? And then if there are programs that you'd like to see more of, maybe you want more yoga classes, I don't know, maybe more aerobics, swimming aerobics, that sort of thing. That's the kind of stuff that we want to hear. I know these are super small and hard to read, but we have bigger versions printed in person. Under open space, and really current facilities are highlighted in this map. We want you to think about and provide feedback on where are are these facilities being overused? What are the amenities within the fields maybe are overused? We're seeing wear and tear more in certain areas. We can't get to our courts. We don't have enough tennis courts, say. I don't know. I'm just spitballing some ideas. Where do you think your facilities need improvement? Where would you like more resources to be located? Say you're in Yarmouthport and there's not enough of a certain thing and you want more things in your neighborhood. Are you leaving town because there's not enough accessible features? Just to wet the whistle here. We're also looking at open space and recreation in terms of the zoning that's been laid out in town and land use. So we'd like to think about how might you have immediate access to open spaces in town, and then how that relates to current land use, and how we might be adding to or protecting land use as it relates to other uses that need to happen in town, say commercial, industrial, how those are pairing to their, what are the adjacencies, that sort of thing. And then under water resources, we really want to know, how are you using your water resources? Where do you go most often? Where are the resources that we haven't identified that maybe need to be on this map? Where are other water resources? Where are you going out, like in Dennis or elsewhere in Sandwich, that aren't here in Yarmouth? Under core habitat, we want to know where core habitats are, so we're protecting those things. That map is helpful to know. And I'm a little stuck there. Okay. So just to wet the whistle on some questions to be thinking about as you provide feedback in this meeting and moving forward. So as Brandon mentioned, myself and a colleague went out with some folks from our ad hoc committee who donated their time to show us around the facilities. And we started to notice a few things ourselves just based on our own professional experience. And we'd ask that you check these out with us. Maybe we're not hitting the mark. Maybe our observations differ from your observations, so please let us know. And maybe we're spot on and you say, yeah, actually that really is a problem. So let us know what you think. In terms of opportunities here at Sandy Pond, we found that and we found this, and this is not just local to these images that you'll see, but there's really themes that we were noticing across the board at many different facilities, that the accessible connections to different amenities, say I'm parking here and I want to go use the tennis courts, getting from A to B is not so intuitive or not so accessible. And on this slide as well, where are we parking versus where are we using different amenities, and making sure that those are well aligned. Other things we noticed are about making accessible connections to the beach or to water resource areas. So there are great accessible boardwalks in certain locations in town, but there's some more that could be done to actually get people from A to B. So it's like almost accessible, but maybe not fully accessible. So noting those opportunities, and this is a great image at Flax Pond. Images. There's some infrastructure for playgrounds that get so much love and are well used, could be upgraded. There's some that are in great shape, so others that need some repair and some upgrades. And then just thinking about surfacing and being compliant from a play safety perspective. And then here at Baxter Mill Park, really small, cute little spot, and there's a mill, an old historic mill, but you'd never know that was there. And just having some educational signage would go a long way. So great historical resources in town, and we just want to learn more about them and educate folks. In terms of trails, we noticed that There's more potential to integrate signage from the road so folks know where the trail is and how to get there. Signage would really help. Maybe some clearer access into some of these great trails. Some of them are so hidden that you don't even know where they are or how to access them. And then when you're on the trail, just making sure that people can go through them and make sure that they're walkable and not flooded and such. So how you can help tonight and moving forward. So tonight we'll have two portions. This concludes our slides, and we'll take about 30 minutes to collect some Zoom feedback and in-person feedback. On this slide, you'll see 4 question prompts under different categories. So folks who are on Zoom and here, these are some questions just to help wet the whistle to provide feedback. We'd also encourage you to take our online survey. There's a QR code in the bottom left corner here. There's also paper copies out in the hallway. Please take the survey. That will definitely help. We'll have that open for 6 to 8 weeks. February 22nd. Okay, thank you. And then if anything comes up in the interim or you have some thoughts that you slept on overnight and you want to share, Kathy is a great person to contact. Her phone number and email are on this slide, as well as any information that we're producing. Actually, our meetings are on YouTube, so you can access information about how the plan is going, get updates on the town's website. So with that, I will open it up, and then after we finish this Q&A session for folks, that will close our hybrid portion of the meeting. And then folks who are here, feel free to visit the 4 tables that are set up on various topics. We have recreational needs and programming in the corner, current facilities and amenities, conservation, and land use and environmental protection. There, we'll encourage you to write, scribble, vote your ideas, just share any feedback that you have. Thank you. Kathy, are you going to manage the?
I guess there's only one individual who's on remote access, so I don't know if Andrew Kraus is interested in providing any comments or has any questions. He can certainly raise his hand and we'll unmute him, and we can go from there, or we can see if anyone in particular oh, he's raised his hand. All right, Andrew. Right.
I raised my hand because I don't want to ignore you people now that I know I'm the only person watching. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And one thing I noticed is I really agree with the thing about signage. I like to hike on the trails, and I know that some of them are not well marked at all. So that's something that I noticed right away that I agree with for sure.
Great, thank you so much.
Yep.
Did you have any input on the kind of the 4 questions that we have shown here of what kinds of amenities would you like to see? Obviously signage, which facilities
Yep.
need improvements and how?
Well, I know I use the beaches in South Yarmouth quite a bit, and I know that I know those mobility strips could use improvement. In my opinion, I don't know if that was, but I think that may be under consideration. Yeah, that's something that impacts me when I use the beach for sure. Yep.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep. That's all I got right now.
Anyone from the room? I heard trash cans.
Well, you guys just mentioned beaches, and it reminded me that,
Sorry.
I don't know if it's at all related, but the bathrooms close too early at the beaches. But
Excellent.
reminded me of that raging pet peeve that I have, that the beach closes at like 11 and the bathrooms are on auto locks. So it's automatic, but for some reason they lock at like 7. So they'll have like a concert at Parker's River Beach, and it'll end, and then all the older people will try to go to the bathroom, and they're already locked inexplicably. Now I have a microphone, I can say whatever I want.
I'm glad that you clarified. I was thinking you meant seasonally.
No, it's always, yeah. And then I think after the season, I think they.
No one can hear you at home.
Sorry, one guy at home. I think that's in the summer that they lock. I think it's 7. It could be 8. Am I right?
Yeah, it locks very early.
Yes. Oh, Kathy's with me. Thank you.
I'm sorry, if you could say your name as well.
Christine Marzigliano from Open Space. Just want to comment that people that have a fairly large piece of property can portion off a section of their property, put conservation restrictions on them. They can save on their taxes doing that, and they're forever protecting their property.
Anyone else? I just would point out that the town of Yarmouth has benefited from having an open space and recreation plan. We got $400,000 to purchase the old former Yankee Village Motel at 275, and we're going to be creating a beautiful waterfront park there with the Chase Brook Park and Mill Creek Park next to them. And we also received $956,000 in a Land Water Conservation Fund grant for the Riverwalk Park that's at the former drive-in site that we're working on permitting and designing at the moment. So we've got some decent money from it, so it makes it worth it.
My name is Annie. I was just wondering what the time period is that going to happen.
The Riverwalk Park, we're actively permitting it right now. The goal is, with our wonderful engineering department, to go out to bid hopefully this summer and start construction this fall. We got a lot to go, a lot of interesting ups and downs on the project, but that's our goal right now. We also, just to let people know, we do have a request from the Community Preservation Act for some additional funding for the project at this annual town meeting, so please come out and vote for it, because we're going to need those funds in order to construct the project.
Last night they thought the RFP would be going out in September-ish.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully we'll be bidding this summer so we can award it in September and start in October. That's the goal. Yeah, the Yankee Village Motel at 275 Route 28, it's been torn down. It was torn down a couple of years ago, but we received $400,000 for that. So we were able to, originally we got CPA money, but we were able to give some of that money back to CPA once we got the park grant for that.
What other thoughts?
Any other lands we should be protecting?
What's that? You had the pictures of what's the name of the one on the conservation on Winslow Gray? It's good. Ricerella. You had the pictures of those like boardwalk things in the woods. Yeah, those things are pretty rough. They get they get really slippery. Yeah, like I've seen.
I experienced that.
Yeah, did you? Yeah. I had somebody fall right in front of me on that, and it looked painful. Chad. Sorry, Chad. But yeah, those could definitely use some work. Somebody did a good job putting all that up, though, at some point.
Yeah. We probably do a lot of those we do in-house even. Yep. Oh, Bill Benetti, Natural Resources. Yeah, a lot of those elevated walkways through those wet sections of trails were done in-house in my tenure here. And I think this plan is going to tie in nice with an overall evaluation and give us a list of some things that we can handle in-house, and that's certainly one of them.
Hi, I live on Swan Pond, and there's a boardwalk, and that needs to be looked at. It needs repair. Thank you.
Is the Meadowbrook boardwalk blocked off now?
I don't know, but some of my neighbors told me that. Yeah.
The one on Swan Pond is Meadowbrook. It's short. It's relatively short.
I've never been on it.
Oh, okay.
My neighbors told me, my guests told me that when they walk on it, there's some boards that are missing and everything. It's a white one. I don't know. I haven't been.
Painted gray like.
It's white. It looks white to me anyway.
We'll take a look.
Okay.
Take a look tomorrow.
Bill's going to look into that, people.
It's right near Gross Lane. It's
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Meadowbrook.
That's Meadowbrook.
Conservation
Okay.
Area.
Right down here. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I live, thank you. I live off of Union Street, and I'm just curious because of the intersection of Starbuck and White's Path. There are quite a few accidents that happen through there, and I don't know if there's any plan for putting any kind of a light or how to do that, handle that section. But also, is there any possibility of a sidewalk that would take residents that are more towards the Mid-Cape Highway, and there's no way to access even to go up to the Cranberry Bog from my house, but there's no sidewalk all the way up to 6A, which would be convenient for a lot of people and would help walkers. Would help walkers too. Anybody that wants to walk up there, it's dangerous.
I do know that there's a Station Avenue corridor study that's going basically from the Route 6 interchanges down south to Regional Ave that's being looked at. And maybe we need to take a look at the section going north. So it's certainly something that we can look at.
So,
It-
and I know there was a meeting because there are quite a few accidents down at the intersection of White's Path, and I think that section in front of the car dealership on the opposite side, there's a lot of space that could accommodate wider lanes through there, because I've had going home, I'm just up the road a piece, and going home, I have a lot of people making that left-hand turn onto White's Path, come into the northbound lane, and it's right towards me, more than once.
Ellie Lawrence, Conservation. To address your remark about White's Path, I think part of the issue of the accidents there is the light sequencing and people blowing through that red light while people get the green light. And I think that's a lot of the accidents.
Maybe there should be a delay.
A longer delay, yeah.
because
But then they might decide that there's a long delay, I can run through it. So there's, I see it all the time. That's one of the worst ones, yeah.
Lots of projects in Yarmouth, for sure. So that section is one that is being actively looked at between the town and the Cape Cod Commission. No one's touched on any additional land they'd like to protect. Any thoughts on that?
Keep them coming.
Sometimes I see there's lots for sale, like we were talking, was that Old Hyannis Road where there were the lots for sale abutting the Greeno Woods. They might have been sold. I'm not really sure. Is that what it's called still? Old Hyannis Road?
Yeah, it's Old Hyannis Road, right behind Camp Greeno. There's five or six houses that are built up there, right behind. When I say right behind, to the north side of the power lines. You know where New Easy Street is?
Yes.
Okay, it's right up in there. I didn't mean to take.
No, that was perfect. Thanks, bud. You nailed it. And like the ones, like there were lots for sale if you extended Old Hyannis Road to the south to the highway. I didn't see them for sale recently, but that would protect some habitat. I know the deer like it in there. Bill told me that. And then I had noticed that by the end of Russell Lane, past that house, like at the end along Bassett, I noticed there was a lot after that at some point that somebody had surveyed. That wouldn't be great if that got developed.
That's right next to the Horse Pond Conservation Area.
Correct. It's like, yeah, it sticks right into it. I had just noticed somebody surveyed it and maybe perk tested it at some point.
Christine's on it. Any other thoughts? Oops.
At the top of Strawberry Lane and White Rock, White Rock Road, there's roughly 10 acres that was purchased by the utilities that would be lovely to purchase. And I know the town's been negotiating to buy it, and that one really connects to a whole bunch of other conservation lands, the back of Reno, and the historic area behind by the post office on 6A.
I do know that Christine has particular interest in that particular parcel. I think the problem with that is it does butt up against a transmission line. It's outside of the Zone 2 of our drinking water wells, so for Eversource to find another parcel the size they might need for a future substation might be difficult for them in Yarmouth.
The old water department on White Rock Road, on Station Avenue, would serve them because it's right next to the power lines, and that's roughly 5 or 6 acres in and of itself.
I believe it's in the Zone 2 of the drinking water wells, which was a concern for them. It's a tough nut to crack.
If it was between development and some sort of recreation or expanding the woods, the Matakes property there has been up for discussion at the town meeting, etc. So rather than buildings, it would be nice to add that to the Horse Pond area. Just throwing that out there.
Yep. That parcel also is in the Zone 2 of the adjacent drinking waters, so it's interesting.
It's close to those wellheads, like they were discussing with the why the reason they bought that other property was because it was so close to the wellheads.
Exactly. They purchased those 10 lots across the street on Higgins Kroll for wellhead protection. Yep.
There was a question here.
I don't know if anybody's familiar, but when you do go up and get onto Union Street before White Rock Road is my house. There's one street there. And just prior to that, there is a pathway that goes from Union Street behind DeVoe Lane, and it goes for how long, I don't know, but it would meet up probably somewhere up on White Rock. But there are three parcels of land.
At the end of your street.
Yes. Maybe you'd get him to contribute.
Interesting. Every once in a while we get inquiries about those 3 lots, so that would be interesting.
And at one time,
DeVoe? Is it
DeVoe.
DeVoe? DEVEAU? Yep. I believe they're all owned by the same person.
The way it is now, I mean, there is a path there, and I can hear them. It used to be worse, but I spoke to. Was I at your house? Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. Yeah, with about the trees in the back. Yeah. I still worry about that tree coming down. But on the other side, and there's a pathway, and there are a lot of four-wheelers and motorcycles. But it would be a great, for the north side, it would be a great place for bicycles for traveling. But again, it's the parking for people and the getting there because there are no sidewalks. And then there are the 3 parcels for that Julian, yes, that he owns there. So I think at one time he had wanted to build a senior housing.
I can't recall exactly. Does anyone else have any ideas? Facilities need improvement and how? Kind of amenities you're looking for? Anybody have some recreation that they're not being able to tap into here in town or can't find enough of? Ellie? No, nothing? I thought for sure. Okay, you're my.
I don't know what to say.
Oh, you don't have to speak. It's totally up to you.
Lighting,
She'd mentioned maybe lighting at the pickleball courts.
or some fluorescent paint that might glow in the dark. Well,
Fluorescent paint that glows in the dark, some shade. So good
I
ideas.
think they were talking about the wind shades also. Somebody had mentioned that.
Oh, wind shades.
Not the wind shades, Ellie. What is it? The
Wind curtains. The wind curtains, the wind screen.
The wind screens.
Excellent. See, you had more in you than you knew. No, don't say it. That's why you're here. All right, I think we might be wrapping it up here.
Okay.
So I think maybe what we'll do is we will tell Dave in the back that we're going to end the hybrid portion of the meeting and invite people to come up to the tables. There'll be town staff and the consultant to answer questions and ask you questions, and hopefully we can get a little bit more information. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Andrew.